Worst of all of them. I could live with a Democrat in my day, but not today. There are no Democrats today. They're all demagogues. The Democrats have all become demagogues. That's the problem. And if I'm forced to choose a Republican, I will choose a Republican. It certainly will not be anyone in the John Boehner McConnell school. And I see a good group of candidates fighting with each other. That's a good thing. Of course, the vermin in the media are trying to make that into a clown show. The actual democracy that's going on the Republican side of many different candidates competing for the crown is actually the mark of a good thing. Instead of the one-party system and the one candidate on the Democrat, Socialist, Islamist left. That's something for you to remember. Just remember that. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Hey, our Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust for wealth insurance, gold and silver. Call 800-BUICOIN. I'm not George Bush. Turn it off. That was his favorite group. Lives in like Dixieland. Drives around in a pickup truck and thinks the world is just a swell place. Eats at Denny's, thinks the food is good, likes white bread and mayonnaise. Anyway, welcome back to the Savage Nation. So I don't know where the doom is coming from, the gloom. I don't understand it. I just did this terrible vacuum out there. So as I told you, we support animal groups. The family does, my family. We don't talk about it much. I did once last week because I was sick and tired of people denigrating me. So Mrs. S is on a plane right now to an East Coast city to see the dogs that she has saved. She supports a group that does something with standard poodles that they give to prisons. And she said to me the poodles turn out to be the hardest dogs in the world for prisoners to control. No, they don't listen to anybody. They're very aloof and they don't listen to anybody. So they had to give them back to the women who raised them. And she supports them. So she's on the plane and we're texting back and forth. I figured she's leaving. She goes, oh, they send I'm in the seat. Everything's fine. And it'll be great. I feel good. Thank God I'm getting away. And she says, only one loudmouth blasting the plane. Well, I guess that's what the Bose headphones are for. So then the next thing, I send a note to her and I say, enjoy the trip. Don't let anyone or any event upset you. She says, only one loudmouth retired military shooting his mouth off. Everyone's forced to listen to him. So I say, you can ask the stewardess to ask him to lower his volume. I just got this a minute ago. You ready for this? The steward did on his own without me having to ask. They are two old guys not wearing their hearing aids. But here's the bad news. Someone on the plane had a heart attack, so they had to return to the gate. We're waiting for new oxygen before we can take off. Oh, God. I mean, you ask why I don't go anywhere. They said to me, why didn't you go see the charity that you support? Why don't you play with the dogs and then go down to Florida or whatever? I hate traveling. So now she's sitting there on a tarmac with oxygen deprivation. The heart attack job. I had a friend who told me he had someone died on an airplane. See, they said to me, why don't you go? I said, first of all, I don't like traveling. Secondly, I hate airplanes. Thirdly, I said, you know what I feel like after the flu I've just gotten over? She'll get up to go to the restroom, and she'll come back. I'll look like Ratso Rizzo in Midnight Cowboy, dead in the chair. He started to laugh hysterically. He said, I had a friend who died in a plane. It's not a funny thing. Well, who said it's funny? But I have a sarcastic sense of humor. I just know it's not the right time for me to be in the air with the pressure on the head and the sinuses and the asking for a glass of water like it's champagne. The control, the feeling like a flying frying pan, a flying prison camp. A real pleasure today. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Islam.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
It has been quite a week on the Savage Nation. I would say the high or low point, depending upon your religious viewpoint was when I asked on Wednesday, should all the passages calling for murder and killing be taken out of the Old Testament and the Quran in the United States? That set off a shockwave. And in typical fashion, no one else mentioned it in the media, even though it's the most, I would say, the most poignant question in the history of talk radio and the most daring question ever raised in talk radio. I wouldn't expect anyone to mention it. It's easy to talk about other subjects. That's a tough one. And then I would say yesterday's show was another, kind of seminal show, a tour de force. I don't even want to repeat it. It was awesome. The music that I picked and my sense that it's all a hustle, everything's a hustle on both sides of the aisle, was a good show. I know it's negative. I know you want to believe in something, and you got to believe in something, and you got to let those balloons fly and clap and cheer when the politicians speak. But I don't know. I'm pretty cynical. I was cynical at age 5 by what I saw in the world. So what should I do? Sit here and cheer you on and tell you this one, that one? I don't know. You'll make up your own mind anyway. Just remember, I'm only a talk show host. I am not a politician. It is not my job to promote any candidate. I'm not in business to promote candidates. In fact, I think it's illegal to promote candidates. To be very honest with you, I don't know how people in talk radio who have candidates on one side of the aisle and not others get away with it, because I think it's purely illegal. Incidentally, by the way, if I were to only have Republican candidates on this show and no Democrats, I would be violating the laws of the public airwaves. Now, you'd say, well, it's just balancing out what they do on the other side. That's true. They're violating the laws as well. So I try to have no guests on to do with politics because basically it's electioneering. That's not my job. I'm not. Talk radio is more than politics. How many times have I had to say to you over the 20 years that if this was just about politics, I would have left after the first day? There's so much more in the world than politics. And yet politics seems to rule the day in talk radio. Somebody called talk radio today conveyor belt radio. Conveyor belt radio. Rush comes on, and the next one comes on, the next one comes on, the next one comes on. And whatever he does, they copy, like a conveyor belt, the same topics. He said, with the exception of you and maybe Alex Jones, there's nobody else doing original radio. I said, okay, whatever you want to think, but I didn't come into this business just to talk about politics. My mind is not made that way. So I tried to do that this week. Was I quoted anywhere? No. Did anyone say it's one of the most brilliant radio shows they ever heard? No. Was I invited to a corporate retreat to talk about my ideas? No. Was I offered a prize from the radio industry for breaking new ground? No. No one heard it, except you, the audience. So I keep doing it anyway because I make believe I'm in a cafe called Cafe Savage, and I own the cafe. And you come into the cafe to relax, to have a cup of coffee, a biscotti, whatever, glass of wine, whatever you want. And in the typical fashion of a cafe owner of the old days, basically I talk and we have a conversation. That's what a cafe is. I mean, that's what it used to be until they became Starbucks. That's not a cafe. So there's a coffee house. It's different. They serve coffee. That's not a cafe. So let's talk about all the other topics. Now, I have some political topics up on michaelsavage.com, home of the Savage Nation. Let's look at them. Obama secretly backing the Muslim Brotherhood. A strategy document regards the group as moderate. You hear this? And they're moderate, the Muslim Brotherhood, and their front group in America is CAIR. Next one. Huge drop in stop and frisk as New York City crime increases. Raises fear that cops are reluctant to confront criminals. No kidding. What would you do if you were a cop? You'd stop and frisk a thug? And if, God forbid, he didn't have a gun, you'd go to jail and lose your job? So let him go kill somebody. That's all. Until all of America becomes Baltimore and everyone's begging for a cop again, then maybe we'll have a law and order again in this country. No, let the liberals destroy everything. Then maybe the America will wake up to what liberalism does. Here's another fake imam. Listen to this story. Gangster turned imam may have radicalized dozens behind bars. See, this is the new racket. He was a gangster in Brooklyn, held up banks, just a plain-out gangster. Former U.S. Marine, became a Muslim radical, gang leader and bodyguard to the blind sheik behind the 93 World Trade Center bombing, is so adept at turning fellow prisoners into potential extreme jihadists that Florida prison officials have kept him shackled and in solitary confinement for the last 3 years. And federal authorities want a judge to tack on another 3 decades, but his dirty lawyer wants him freed immediately. Marcus Jawain Robertson, a Muslim extremist also known as Imam, Imam. Everyone's an imam. He once led a murderous black New York gang dubbed Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. Then he resurfaced decades later as a radical imam at a Florida mosque. See, that's the new game, is that if a criminal, a career criminal now calls himself an imam, suddenly everyone gets on their hands and knees. Oh, he's a religious figure. Oh, we can't say anything to him. Oh, no, everyone's an imam. Tell me what the qualifications are to become an imam. Does anyone know? I would say that you could buy an imam's license in a Cracker Jack box for about a nickel. The same way that Al Sharpton became a reverend, I would say you could become an imam today. But you say imam and put a skull cap on, and right away everyone has to get on their hands and knees and kiss your behind. That's the sick America. That's the Trojan horse of religion. That's the abuse of the First Amendment. That's that story. Got that one out of the way. What else is in the news? 855-40728. I don't want to read any more bad news. I'm going to take some calls. KSFO, line 8. Go ahead. You're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
Mr. Savage, my Coast Guard son is my hero. I just wanted to tell you that. He's been in the service for almost 7 years straight out of high school. I'm in Livermore. And I want to tell you that we listen to you all the time, and we thank you for your service. I'm very proud of my son.
Well, that's very nice. So you see, you do have real heroes, too. You know what a hero is, right? But why do you think Bruce Jenner, who is a nobody, a person with sexual identity problems and an egomaniac like you can never imagine, why is he being held up as a hero when he's the opposite of a hero?
Because the people in society today, the recent generations post-Vietnam want to be entertained. They don't care about what's going on. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to help heroes. They don't want to help veterans. I just finished up 4 days at Valor Games at Coast Guard Island. I don't care if I have a dime. I just want to do what's right. I'm a born-again Christian. I want to help our veterans. I'm heavily involved in veterans groups. And it all is thanks to my husband, who adopted my son at 13, and helped my son realize his dream and got into the Coast Guard when he barely got out of high school. So,
well, thank you for your service to America, and let me send you a gift for your son called Countdown to Mecca. So here's another hater. Remember Jimmy Carter, what he did to this country? Well, now he's coming out saying that white Americans cling to feelings of superiority toward minorities. Can you believe that they're all in the same playbook? Hillary Clinton attacking, again, white people against minorities. Jimmy Carter, who almost destroyed America single-handedly, said white Americans cling to feelings of superiority toward minorities. How would he know that? Isn't he a white American? When did Jimmy Carter become a minority? Jimmy Carter says white Americans cling to feelings of superiority towards minorities. How would the nut know that? How would this nut know this? How would this nut know that unless he feels the same thing? How would Jimmy Carter know that white people, all white people now, cling to feelings of superiority over minorities? Now, he's speaking for all white people, but how would he know what other people think? So, in other words, he feels superior to minorities. And now he's trying to project it onto the white people, onto the white race as a whole. How can a race survive with such haters like this in it? How did they get this way? Madness, power madness, bankrupt. I don't have an answer for it. KKOB Radio, line 7. Go ahead. You're on the Savage Nation.
Yes, a pleasure to talk to you. I'm a doctor of medicine who's not irrational like your first caller, but I would like to corroborate what you said about medicine succumbing to the fumes of the dollar. It's actually, it's gotten so bad that I literally have retired. I still do some teaching and pro bono work. They've also dumbed down medical school, which you're probably aware of, and they're talking about group learning and all of this sort of stuff.
Well, that's to accommodate the non-English speaking of third worlders that they're flooding into the hospitals because they don't have enough kids from America to become doctors.
But I've got bad news for them. Learning takes place in that 1,000 cubic centimeter thing inside your skull. And one of my heroes was my organic chemistry teacher, who was a wonderful teacher, but I went to him and asked him how I could improve my organic chemistry grade, and he said, well, son, just ruin your health studying.
Organic chemistry was the nut that cracked a lot of brains. People couldn't get through that one. They could get through a lot of courses, but organic chem was the tough one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was your preview to medical school. And he, in fact, said that this was a great guy, but he said that